5:30 to 6 p.m. on Ramadan FM.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Banter on Bikes, episode 8. Final episode for this Ramadan. Zabs, how's it going, man?
Assalamu alaikum, bro. How are you keeping?
Wa alaikum salam. All good, all good. But
You sounding tired, Sof. Sounds like the fasting's getting to you.
yeah, it's been a long haul, I think. But alhamdulillah, we're getting there. Pretty much achieved what I wanted to do, though. Kept obviously exercising, obviously the fasting, ibadah, everything. So alhamdulillah, I think it's gone well. But yeah, I think Eid is going to be very welcome.
Definitely. I think it's the same. I kind of reiterate the same sort of points. I feel like I've lost a little bit of weight during this month. But normally in Ramadan, I feel like I always lose weight, but I feel flabby and I feel like I lose the wrong type of weight. Whereas this month, I feel like I've lost the right type of weight. And I think that's because of incorporating a little bit of weight resistance training into this month. I don't know how I've managed to find the time to do it. But
it's the first time you've done that, haven't you?
First time I've done that. Well, first time I've cycled during Ramadan. And second, so that's the cardio element. And then the resistance training I incorporated within a week of Ramadan. And I found that that's been really beneficial. Only 3 times a week, but just to kind of build the upper body and get a little bit of definition, so not looking like a deflated balloon, so
yeah, you can be accused of looking like many things, Abs, but a deflated balloon is not one, mate.
Yeah, for sure. But alhamdulillah, can't complain.
So what have we got on the show today then?
So I think today, in terms of the topic of conversation, it's more about the impact of cycling on the body. So how can one cycle with confidence by being in tune with their body? So knowing the certain signs and symptoms that can help, how certain injuries can potentially be prevented, knowing your limits. And I think this will hopefully be beneficial for both our beginners and our more experienced riders to take on board. So is our guest with us?
I'll just add him in now.
Okay, so just a quick introduction of our guest today. He's a medical doctor by profession, specializes as an anesthetist. Probably haven't pronounced that correctly. He's going to correct me on that. He's known as, as you can see, he's clearly a trendsetter in the Muslim cycling world. Naturally gifted sprinter, and that's something I'd like to kind of touch upon at some point as well. And he's a local legend of the Muslim community. We rely upon him. It's great having him on board. So welcome to the show, Dr. Noman. It's nice to have you on the show.
Welcome, Dr. Noman.
Thank you.
How are you keeping?
I'm very well, thank you. I've got to say, I'm just so chuffed and honoured to be on this show. It's
an honour to have you.
I'm a bit camera shy and I'm not very good in the limelight, but just being invited by you guys has kind of made my Ramadan.
No, standout guest of the series.
Let's just to get our viewers acquainted with yourself a little bit more.
Yeah, okay.
Can you give our viewers a kind of a brief understanding of your role as an anesthetist, and what does that kind of entail in the generic sense, and maybe a little bit more specifically in terms of cycling? So give us a little feel of what you do.
Okay, so I'll start with the last point. In terms of cycling, it helps me get to work. That's the main thing. And I'm a doctor. I've been working for 11 years. I qualified 11 years ago, and I'm subspecializing in anesthetics, as you said, as you pronounced nicely, and intensive care medicine as well. So over the COVID period, we were all working in intensive care mainly, and now we're back to working in theatres. So I wasn't really sure what to chat to you with you guys
No, but
about
within
today, but
yeah,
so
but within that
but
remit, so of that role, like what are the kind of common things that you come across, like you know, whether it's injuries, certain things that you come across that can be, just to kind of give us a broad perspective of the kind of
okay,
people
so
you see.
a third of my job is getting you to sleep for your operations, whether it's any kind of operation you've had. You need for example, if you've had an injury, broken a leg, fixing that. The other third of my job is working in intensive care, looking after patients who are critically unwell. The other third is in my last job working in obstetrics, which is doing epidurals and cesareans and things like that. So currently, I'm working in a bone hospital, so bone injuries, and
Okay.
I wasn't sure what to talk with you guys about today, but I had an experience this week which I wanted to share, and it's something which has touched me and it's been an inspirational experience. And
Please share.
yeah, I'd love to. So this is about, so a bit of context. I was on a night shift at the beginning of the week in ITU, and kind of quite drained with Ramadan. Been cycling with you guys, and I think my physiological reserves and nutritional reserves are kind of right at the baseline now. So just physically exhausted and just stressed out with work and all that. But so I had an opportunity to pray at work, and in one of the breaks we get, and I just asked Allah for guidance and just to show me some perspective on life.
Okay.
And later on that shift, I met a patient. He came to me post surgery, and I think I was given the answer to my dua.
Mashallah.
I'm gonna give you a bit of background. So this is a brother who has given me permission to share his story with the listeners. So background: this is he's a Muslim brother. He's in his late 40s, and about the same age as a good friend Joyner, and just kind of peaking at the peak of everything, at the peak of his career, his family, and all aspects of his life. And he's a doctor like me, so I saw I kind of saw an inspirational, like aspirational role model there in terms of what he's achieved. And he's a cancer surgeon, so he's helped so many people. On top of that, he's a really gifted cyclist. He picked up cycling about a year ago, and he's got the best of everything. Tarmac SL7. He's got an FTP of 250 watts.
Okay.
And
just
really strong rider. About 2 months ago, he went out with one. Sorry, you gonna interject?
No, keep
okay.
Going.
He
I was going to say, just
in
terms of that. Can you hear us? I think the reception.
Yeah, go on again.
Good. I was just going to say, just on just a few points before we come on to the critical part of the story. I just wanted to cover a few points just for our listeners in terms of some of the kind of common injuries that you generally find from your role. Because I know we've got a lot to cover in a very short period of time, and I want to come back to your story, but I just want to make sure that we cover some of these key critical points for our listeners. So in terms of like common injuries and stuff like that, what are the kind of common things that you kind of come across from a cycling perspective?
Okay, so you've got your serious injuries and your non-serious but chronic and annoying problems. So serious injuries are anything which makes you fall off the bike and hurt yourself. And the main thing you can I think we've got a caller in.
No, it's right. Keep going.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, go.
Probably phone back in a bit.
Any part of your body, pretty much, you can heal and regenerate after an injury. The only two things are your brain and your spine. Okay, these are the two things which can be very difficult to recover from an injury from, and can be life-changing and cause life-ending injuries. So that's the main thing. So beyond that, any injury to your body, bones can be broken, and road rash. Road rash is a common complaint after a crash.
Road rash.
Damage to the skin. Okay.
Just to explain to our listeners, that's obviously when you come off and you graze your skin, you might tear it on the road.
Okay, so those are some of the kind of common ones. What is your kind of general advice on wearing a helmet? Do you find that a lot of the patients that come in, they're generally patients who wear helmets, or who aren't wearing helmets?
Yeah, they are, to be honest, because they're the ones that survive and get into hospital.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So
okay. So that's
if you're not wearing a helmet, you're just asking for it. There's no fashion sort of justification for it, is there?
Yeah, absolutely. Always wear a helmet.
Another big one is about the heart rate, right? So a lot of concern people have is, oh, my heart rate is like spiking too high, and people just don't know how to kind of use this metric, because we've got loads of different metrics, whether it's heart rate or other things. But how does one kind of get a better understanding of the heart rate, or how to utilize that as a tool?
First things first is you need a device to measure your heart rate. So you can do that at rest by checking your pulse. Okay. Resting heart rate is one of the best indicators of your actual general physical health. The lower the better, really. In broad speak. Beyond that, you need to measure it whilst you're exercising. So a heart rate monitor, either wrist-based or chest-based. Chest-based is generally the best. And what you need to do is you need to do a maximal effort. And what that means, I think Sof can tell me what a maximal effort is.
So it's just the maximum your heart rate will go, right, for a given period of intensity or exercise.
Yeah. And how does that feel?
Tough. Very tough.
I don't think Sof's ever hit
dying. You would be literally feel like you're dying when you reach your max heart rate. Okay. So that's how you find it. Kind of, there's different tests for it. For example, a sprint at the end of a run or things like that. And from that you can work out heart rate zones, and then you can train in specific zones depending on what you're looking to achieve, whether it be improving your sprint ability, improving your endurance, that kind of thing.
And you might have, sorry to interrupt, but you might have one of our listeners, or some of our listeners thinking, is it safe to kind of go up to the max heart rate?
I think it's, so you have to look at the individual. If it's someone who's not sort of been training, just totally sedentary and started working out, then just be careful and ease into it. But for normal people who do regular exercise, which we condone, then it's fine. Do the test, find out your zones, and then work to them. If you've got any history of cardiac disease, or you're getting chest pain or fluttery chest or things, then see your GP about it. But for the normal individual, it's fine.
What about the concept of bonking? So obviously that seems to be a concern that people have, but it seems like there's a lot of inexperience when it comes to that. What kind of advice can you give?
Sorry, just to explain to our listeners, bonking is a kind of term in the cycling world when you basically just run out of energy. You kind of either haven't fueled properly, or something else has triggered it, but basically you're completely out of energy.
Yeah, you'll know when it happens, because you've been going nice and fast, and then suddenly something hits you, and
it's happened to all of us. many times.
Until-
But anyway.
Is there something that you can do though, like at that moment? So, for example, when that does happen, if it does happen, unfortunately, how do you kind of recover from that? How do you get home? Really?
Bonking is the depletion of your nutritional reserves. So,
Okay.
in terms of your nutrition when you're riding a bike, there's the first 10-20 seconds of it is your creatine stores and your immediate release fast twitch muscle fibers and energy. Then you've got your muscle glycogen, which is the stores that all the time your muscles have this glycogen energy substrate, which is just ready to be used for a couple of minutes to help you sprint and go fast. And then beyond that is glucose, which you work for a good hour or so and a couple of hours, and then it goes on to fat. So when you've kind of used all your glycogen, used your glucose, that's when you bonk. So how to deal with it is nutrition during riding.
So I think we got a caller.
Sorry, Zab, I'm having some technical issues. Can you take
that? Let me see if we can.
Oh,
Sorry.
Actually, back on. Hello, you're live on Ramadan
Just 1
FM.
second.
Hello.
Is it Andy?
Hello.
Hello.
Salam.
Hi.
Wa alaikum salam. Welcome to the show, guy. What's your name?
Am I live on air?
You are. What's your question?
Hello. It's Andy McNeil. I'm calling. Obviously, you've got a doctor on, so it'd be a good chance to ask the doctor a question. I mean, the NHS waiting times can be a bit long, so try and take advantage of it, if you know what I mean.
All right, yeah, no worries.
My questions are related to the topic, and it's not related to the Ruafsa issue I mentioned yesterday. It's more about biking injuries. What I'm looking to ask is basically, when do you know the limit to your body? When do you say no to your own body? Because one time I was cycling, I had the wind in my face. You know that feeling, lads, when you're cycling, you feel free. Like Braveheart. And then suddenly my glutes just twanged a little bit, and I thought, I can't cycle anymore. So my question really for the doctor is, what can we do to, do you say no to our own bodies? And, if you're a determined lad like myself, do you just say stop? Sometimes I get Shelley to sort of tell me off to discipline me, to stop me from cycling, which is my one passion in life. But, how do you balance that, lads?
It's Andy, it's a brilliant question, and thanks for joining us from over the border. I'd say your body has this brilliant system in place to protect it from injury, and that's called pain. And when you're feeling pain, it means you're getting tissue damage. If you're getting tissue damage, there's two things it's going to do. It's either going to be boosting you, helping your muscles and your body systems and your heart grow stronger through tear and repair. But at a certain point, that's going to be too much, and it's going to cause damage and injury. So you just have to know your body. You have to.
But how do you? Sorry to interrupt. How do you know when you get to that point?
I think it's the level of pain you're feeling. If you're, it's just very subjective. It's very personal to the individual, and sometimes you kind of have to go to your limits to be able to know where they are. And a lot of the time, you'll be working a lot under your body limits.
Another one is about saddle pain, right? So sometimes people are unable to distinguish saddle soreness, maybe getting just general saddle soreness, and saddle pain in that kind of lower region, right? How does one kind of distinguish between when it gets serious and when it's not serious, maybe?
So saddle soreness there's two things involved. There's the pressure on your perineum, basically on your sit bones where you sit, and that leads to two things. That can lead to pressure damage to the soft tissue, and secondly, it can lead to nerve problems due to impeding the nerves, and then I'm sure you may have experienced numbness down there or in your
Yeah.
legs. Okay, so when it starts to happen, then you need to just ease off. There's different tactics which I'm sure you can help me with. So
Yeah.
getting out of the seat,
Mhm.
cycling out of the seat, taking breaks, rest, looking at your shorts, make sure you've got good padding in your bib shorts.
Padded shorts.
Should you be worried at all? Should you, if the numbness is kind of there, should you be worried, or should you stop riding?
I think it's something, yeah, you should address. There's no reason for anyone to ride whilst with numb behind.
There's
I
a
don't think
topical
it's good.
question, the one that's just come in from one of our listeners saying, is there anything about cycling that could damage the reproductive system, so to speak?
Okay. There's
Big.
I've read up on this about men. I'm not sure about women, but in terms of men, there's been no demonstrated impact on those functions. And if anything, cycling does the opposite, improves things. Okay, so can I go back to my story before we run out of time? Hello?
Hello, sorry, I think Zab's having connection issues.
Okay.
You
Okay,
can, but you're gonna
go.
have to be brief. You're gonna have to be brief.
Okay, I'm gonna be brief.
I think
Okay, so my friend was out. He went out cycling about 2-3 months ago. He was out with his friend on his nice bike and all excited and happy. He was going along, and an event happened. A big tree fell on him as he was cycling past.
Wow.
What that tree did is smashed into his back, took out his bike, destroyed his bike, but in the same time, it destroyed his back. Okay, so it crushed his one of his lumbar vertebrae and damaged the spinal cord. And
this was on the way to work or coming back?
This was out on just a ride with a friend, a fast ride. He had a really good power, a good average, and it resulted in him damaging his spinal cord. And
no, sorry.
Finish
off your point. Sorry, just coming.
No. As I was saying, your brain and your spinal cord are two of the things that are very, very difficult to heal from an injury with. But the reason I'm sharing this story particularly is not for scaremongering. It's to tell you about the way this brother, he handled this event, this life-changing event. He couldn't move or couldn't function from below the waist. Okay, and this is a new injury. This brother, he told me, he was knocked out, and he had a dream, a very divine inspired dream, and he couldn't remember that dream when he woke up. But when he woke up, he had full acceptance in his heart from Allah, full acceptance of his life-changing event, of his injury, that he may not be able to use his legs again. Yeah, go ahead.
Numan, listen, I've got a couple of minutes left, and I've got one more really, really important question that I've got in terms of helping. In terms of supplements, are there any supplements that you would potentially recommend to help boost performance?
Okay.
I've heard there's one called beta-alanine, which helps buffer the lactic acid when you're going to the gym. I don't know if that's any good in the cycling world.
I've not come across that, but generally, basic things is protein supplements. Eating protein can help after a ride, and it's shown that that can improve recovery after a ride and boost your strength in the long run. Nutrition is important for getting cycling power.
So general protein powder.
Protein, hydration, electrolytes. Okay. These are the things you need to take.
Okay. You know what? We're going to have to do this again, where we're going to have to really go through that story. It's just time has been really restricted, and I think reception has been atrocious today.
Unfortunately, apologies to some of the listeners. I think we've had some technical issues, but
Yeah.
that was an amazing story, Naman.
Well, I didn't get to the good part, but
We're going to have to get you on again, to be honest. It's the only way we're going to have to do it. Jazakallah khair for coming on today. It's been a pleasure
Thank
having you on, and I think we're going to have you on again. Sof, any final kind of thoughts?
No, I think it's been a really good Ramadan. Some amazing guests, some amazing shows. I think the only thing to note is, hopefully Zabs and I will be setting up a YouTube channel, also called, funny enough, Banter on Bikes. So obviously, if you're interested, then please, once it's set up, follow and subscribe. Other than that, thanks everyone for listening. Have a great Eid, and hopefully, we'll listen to the show again. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thanks.
all right, assalamu alaikum.